Okay, let's play that.
We heard like an ambulance and a police officer come, and everybody was a little scared, crying, and I felt actually a little sick, and I felt like I was going to throw up, and I felt that to my teacher too.
How did you get out of there?
We had to go through the building, and then we had to just go out to the firehouse.
And did you know what was happening at the time?
No, until our next door neighbor, Mrs. Walker, which is one of our friends, and then she said that like there's a lockdown, you guys just gotta be calm, and then her class came into our room, and then we just do that.
Were kids crying and screaming?
Yeah, kids were crying, not really like screaming, but they're all huddling together, and they felt so sick.
It feels like a nightmare, and you just never in a million years would you ever think, you drop your child off at school, hugs and kisses, have a good day, I'll see you later, and see you at the end of the day, and you never know, are you still going to have, in 20 minutes from now, what's going to happen, and you count your blessings every day for what you have.
A lot of people counting their blessings right now. One thing I'm struck by in that video, and Jim, that you can't see it from here. You heard the words, but you could just see that mother clutching her child.
Holding her like
she didn't want to let her go.
Yep.
That's right.
Arm was wrapped around her from the back, Jim, and she did not want to do it. She said she could just see the bubble over her head saying, my goodness, how can my child be talking about this?
And I want to keep her safe. I want her near me. Yeah.
You can feel it, right, Jim?
We saw a lot of that today, Bill. We saw, Sade, we saw a lot of that. People, parents holding on to their children's hands so hard that they were probably hurting the child, but neither one wanting to let go. And that is what this kind of thing brings about, a real appreciation for the blessings we have in this life, and of course, an understanding that it's all very fragile. And that, of course, is what parents here must surely be thinking today. As that woman said, you drop your child off, and you hope and pray that everything's going to be okay. But some days, that's not the way it ends.
And
and Jim, one thing that we haven't talked a whole lot about are some of the teachers who were there at the scene. They were real heroes in this, getting some of these kids to safety. As they hear gunfire erupting, you hear these kids screaming, they're crying, they're huddling all together with their other classmates, afraid of moving anywhere. And these teachers had to be focused and had to get these kids out.
We can only hope that those stories come out of this, Sade, that we are able to hear those stories over the next few days, because those adults worried about their own lives, worried about whether they were going to be able to go home and see their families at the end of the day, took care of their students first and minimized the damage here. We've heard some of these stories already, a couple of the isolated stories already, but over the next few days, remember, there were a lot of classrooms in that school. A lot of teachers had to be heads up with very young children, not children, junior high school or high school age, but very young children. And those stories, even if we never hear them, those stories are of the real heroes here, because they handled this extremely well and minimized what could have been a much worse situation. Obviously, it's difficult handling young children in the best of circumstances sometimes to get them organized and to do what you need them to do. But these teachers did that, and it really minimized the damage here.
I'll tell you one story we're not going to hear, Jim, and that is the viewpoint from one of the victims, and that is the mother of the shooter, Adam Lanza. And she was a teacher or a teacher's aide, we're not sure, getting conflicting reports, in that kindergarten class. For her to see her son in that class with those two guns, killing her, and then before that, likely all those other kids, is just beyond belief. And what she must have been felt. There's so many perspectives to look at in this just huge tragedy. You're going to be up there tonight, Jim. Tell us what you're going to be working on for the rest of the night here. You're going to be talking to some people, I assume.
We're hoping to talk to some of the parents, especially. I do want to point out, and you totally understand the people who wrote in to say, why are you putting those children on? In no case would we talk to a child without talking to the parent first and asking permission of the parent. But we are hoping to talk to some of the parents and some of the people who were touched by this today, and that coverage will continue obviously tonight and for the next several days as we try to get a handle on how people are affected by this and how they are dealing with it, coping with it. It's hard for adults to deal with it, to cope with it. It is much harder for children to get their heads around what happened. I'm not sure there is getting your head around what happened here. You know, Bill, you were talking about this this mother who saw her son come in today with these guns, and it's understandable to try to come up with an explanation for it, but really, what explanation is going to do in the end? There's no explanation for this. There's no motive for something this horrifying.
Right,
yeah, sometimes there is
it's
no
understandable to try to come up with one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think a lot of people feel like that. Jim Dolan for us in Connecticut near the scene of the shooting.
Let's go to Diana Williams now, who is in Newtown. Diana's been telling us about some events that are happening there this evening, including a candlelight vigil. Several churches are remaining open throughout the coming days for people that need someone to talk to, a prayer, anything. And Diana, I understand you have spoken with someone there?
Yeah, we're starting to hear, of course, you know, as people are coming out and sharing stories, and we're talking to folks. We're not talking to families at this point. I know Jim said that, you know, certainly we'll want to talk to families eventually, but, you know, we're talking to a lot of the other folks and residents in this area. And I have with me right now Mitchell. Mitchell is an 8th grader at Newtown Middle School, correct? Yes. And